All right. So let's get it. Good. So USD JPY. I'm gonna go with trades that are still valid based on what they say here, but we will do our analysis to see if these are still active trades that we could get into. So USD JPY got called for a buy on the 4-hour time frame, and the price of interest was 110.184, right? So let's look at the analysis, because to me it seems as though that has already taken off. So drawing a horizontal line again, and we're going to identify where they wanted us to get into the market, and then we'll take it over to trading view, right? So it's 4-hour time frame. We know that this is around the price point that they wanted us to look for the buy, not necessarily that we wanted to get in for the buy at 110.184, but all they're doing is giving you a price interest point of where to look for a possible entry once you've gotten your confirmation, right? So I need to say that, because especially those who are new on this call, who have never met me before, who have never been to any of my trainings or any of the Bounceback trainings, when you see that USD JPY or any of these trades actually send out a signal saying to buy and they give a price point, it's not necessarily to say that that's the price that they want you to jump in the market at and just do a quick buy or sell, but more or less this is a price point that they just want you to identify an area of interest that they want you to look for entry, but now is the time that you would need to have the rest of your confirmations to get into the trade, right? So jumping 2 time frames down on this trade, if we're buying USD JPY, right, we want to identify the uptrend, right? So you guys know the rules. The experienced persons that are always on this call, you know the rules. So we're going to identify the downtrend. So we're going to identify the downtrend, and what we want is a break in structure, right? So obviously this trade already started to take off already. So I'm just doing it based on where price would have likely to call. I think I'll call somewhere around here. But anyway, so what we did here is that we've identified a downtrend, right? We've identified a downtrend on the 30-minute time frame. So we have our trend line drawn. And obviously, if we come down to the 30-minute, then we're going to drop one more time frame for entry. So, before I go over to trading view, entry would have been something like this. You got the break of the structure, so you have the break of the trend line. Just remember to mute your mic. Good. And then you have the break of the MACD here as well, right? So we have the confirmation of the uptrend. Now, one thing I'm going to touch on quickly is when the trade breaks a trend line, right? First of all, you need 2 touches to activate a trend line. So you need a minimum of 2 touches to activate a trend line, right? To confirm a trend line, you need a minimum of 3 touches, and on the 4th touch, we look for a break, right? So that's just a little note for you guys to make in your books in terms of trend lines. Now, the reason why I said that is because when the trade breaks a trend line, please do not expect that it's just going to go all the way up all the time, right? Now, if it is a true trend line, if it is a trend line that that needs to be respected, then look for a price to break and retest your trend line. I have persons that get into bounce back as soon as the trade breaks the trend line, and and the MACD breaks, and then they notice that they go into some negatives and they get scared. And just remember that, first of all, Forex does not care about your emotions, right? So be strong-hearted when you're trading. And second of all, learn to understand how structure works, right? So if we draw a trend line that is being respected by price, when it breaks that trend line, it will need to be respected by being retested, right? So it would need to go up, right, to a type of resistance area before it comes back down and is retested. So if you look here, I'm going to move this entry point and show you guys how here was a area of resistance. You can see how the market came up here and it bounced and did a reverse, right? And then we came back up again, bounced and did a reverse, touched our trend line, and then we did a continuation. So just remember that in terms of looking for what Forex is telling you as a story, because that is key, right? I want you guys to know what is happening. Just don't look at it and say, but I don't understand, it was in profits. I know in negatives, like this ain't working. No, you need to understand how Forex develops its story. So let's go to USD JPY over here on my chart, right? So let's go to USD JPY, and we want to understand what's happening with the trade, if it is a long-term uptrend, or if it's a case that that we are just retesting. So what I do, and what I would encourage you to do, is to come to the monthly, and we're gonna box price all the way in until we get down to the 4-hour time frame, which is where the trade was called, right? So what we're doing is that we're identifying the trends, right? So starting from the low, and what I do is that I kind of look for perfection when it comes to drawing my trend line. I look for perfect touches in terms of the wicks. And the reason why I don't really go through the wicks, because some persons could actually come and bring it all the way in until they get to a body of a candle. And the reason why I don't do that, I used to do it too. I used to do it as part of my process of learning. But the reason why I don't do that now is because these wicks on the monthly are candles on the daily and the 4-hour, etc. As we expand the time frames, these are actual candles. So I don't want to be going through the body of the candles, and I want to have a really good idea of where price is likely to retest. So if I go through the bodies of the candles, if I go through the wicks on the higher time frame, there could be a possibility that if price was going to retest a particular area or my monthly trend line, that it could actually go past my trend line because I didn't identify where price was likely to go. I got some. Let's see what's happening in the chat quickly. Let me see. Okay, yeah, no problem. All right, good. So back to the back over here. So like I said, so this is how I draw my trend. I start from one wick at the bottom of that trend, and all I do is that I come up for where I see the next wick, right? So it needs to connect with some wicks, and that's how I really draw my my trend line. Then I come to identify my downtrend. I have to zoom in a bit because of, you would notice that up there you have some numbers and stuff. So I don't want it to be, I want to make sure that I get perfection. So, you know, this is how I come in. So for me, price is boxed in at the moment, right? Then, because persons might say, but coach, so how if I box in price just using these two wicks, how would I get into here? I need to identify the trend here. Yeah, it's called inner trend lines, right? So like I say, you don't need to bring the trend line and actually go through the wicks and come all the way down. You could then start to work on your inner trend lines, right? But use this as your outer trend line, your main trend line for the overall pair, right? So now you can then come in and actually look for inner trends. So like for example, you can have a trend line here. So we got the 2 touches of those wicks there. And then as you come down further, you could obviously then look for your touches further down as well. Something like that. All right? So you could always do that. These are inner trend lines. But personally, I am not one to go through the wicks anymore. That was for beginning stages. So as we get to be more master traders, we should be advancing, right? We should definitely be advancing. So just come down to the lower time frames as well to adjust the trend lines, because obviously they may not be touching perfectly. So like I said, I like perfection when it comes to my chart, so that I have a clear idea of where price is likely to bounce. So we're on the weekly chart now, and you can see here where I would have boxed in based on the monthly. So we have the main trend lines, identifying the up and the downtrend, and then obviously started with my inner trend lines to identify the inner trends within the overall trend of the market, right? So moving now to the daily time frame, as you can see, we have another inner trend here. So I'm going to come, and you can come from here. You can come from here and do this, right? So you could identify the trend line from there. No, this is a really good example, because if you had done this, which probably some of you would have come here, right? This would have then been a breakout here, and then looking for a retest, right? This could have been that. If you had come from here and you brought it all the way in, probably would have been a bit weird, if you understand what I mean. Because if you had brought it from down there and you try to bring it up, notice you're missing all of the touches here as well. And it doesn't look like a clear structure. You know, it doesn't look like a clear structure in terms of trend line. So again, that's why I don't go through the wicks. I just get at least 2 touches of my trend line so that I know what I'm looking for a price. So from here, as you can see, USD JPY is bouncing off of this. From here, this could head all the way back up, right, to the top, or this could look to break. So obviously, as I go further in to the time frames, then you will see how these are active candles, and then you can understand what is really happening with price at this on this trend line, right? So coming down to the 4-hour time frame, now you start to see how price is respecting our trend line. Now, if we are looking at this, right? If we're looking at this, we know that Bounceback has called a buy on this, right? So first of all, let me go back to my daily and let me get the trend line brought down. Let's do that. All you're doing is boxing in price as you go ahead. Let's keep boxing in price, right? Because if I keep my trend line here, price, notice that when price came up, it reversed before it actually got back up to my my weekly trend line. So all I do is I keep boxing in price, not going through any wicks, just getting the touches, and that's it. Right? So perfection is what we're looking for. Good. So now when I see this, what am I seeing? Bounce back called a buy on this trade. So let's look and see what the story is telling us. So we had a very, very strong move to the downside, right? A retest. Don't like how this retest looks, because for me, I like a flag to look better than that. Like for example, this here would have been a nice flag formation that I could have gotten here. So this doesn't look as healthy as I would like it to be. Maybe it does on a lower time frame. Anyway, we got the break again. So we had a nice impulse all the way down to our trend line, right? So bounce back called a buy. Now, when we look at this buy based on the trend line and based on what we had in terms of the two previous impulse moves, what is Forex telling you? What is USD JPY telling you, right? This is the question now. This is why I say that we want a boxing price on trading view, and actually look and see what price is telling us, because we are traders, right? We are traders. We're not signal takers. We're traders. We want to learn how to trade, right? So if you're looking at it here, what is this telling me? For me, this is telling me that this just looks like a possible retest based on the strength of that impulse move. So the last two impulse moves that we had, this looks like a possible retest here before we get continuation and look for a break of our trend line, right? It could potentially continue up, right? But this is when you just need to do your analysis and just look for structure, look for areas that that the trend could reverse on. So if you look left, you will notice that if you look left, let me just zoom up here. You will notice that this entire area here is support equals resistance, right? Support equals resistance. And all I did was I drew a rectangle box. That's it. Nothing difficult, guys, right? Support equals resistance. So me personally, at this resistance level, I am going to identify where on price to confirm what's actually happening. Guys, no matter how much of a master you see in Forex world itself, nobody can actually predict solely 100% that a trade is going to do X, right? At the end of the day, we have to rely on analysis. And don't just go and jump into the market because your prediction is that it's definitely going to go in a sell. So you're going to go and just start to sell, because more likely you might be entering the market prematurely, right? So all you need when you see things like this, we've identified that this was a nice sell move. And then now we are getting a retest. So if I wanted to jump in this on a lower time frame, on the 1 hour time frame, what I'm looking for is some form of rejection, either back to the trend line, or from here, I could look for a breakout, retest, and continuation up, right? So these are the two scenarios. So what you need is you either need a full body candle closing above the resistance, or you can have or you could look for rejection at this price point to see if we would then get the continuation sell move, right? So this is basically how you want to start analyzing these bounce back trades. Boxing price, starting from the monthly, bring it all the way down, and then start to look for different things. A lot of you guys from the basics folder with a Daisy Duncan should understand what support and resistance looks like. So you should have gone through the basics by now if you're trading bounce back, and if you haven't, might I encourage you to really complete basics and understand what support and resistance areas look like, so that you can start to identify areas where the trade would bounce or break, right? So we identify that this is a resistance area. So now we're going to wait and see what happens here. What happens next? Are we going to get a continuation to the upside, or are we going to turn around now and continue down to look to break that trend line? The only way we would know is by price actually giving us that confirmation with some rejection. So you either want to see a nice bearish candle happening here, or you want to see a nice continuation of a bullish candle closing above the resistance area. And that's it. So at this point, I would be out of USD JPY based on the bounce back trade, because anything now can happen here, right? But this was just a retest. So if I had look at this before you actually gone into bounce back and I saw this entire move, I would have known, okay, let me look for a resistance area. Support equals resistance. So I would have drawn this box and I would have told myself my take profit point is literally going to be at resistance, and then I'm out of the market, because I don't know if I could catch 30 or 60 or 70 pips with a continuation to the upside, because we have this big move. We have a strong support equals resistance area here. So I'm just going to wait now to see how price reacts at this point. And then, you know, I could even look, if I get my confirmation for either side, then I could look for a continuation either to the upside or the downside. And that's how you guys could actually use bounce back to even give you even better trades, right? Because you would be at a stage where you understand what Forex is telling you, and you can use bounce back as a way to get bigger moves and even strengthen your skills where trading is concerned. All right, so this is real simple. Again, I recorded this for you guys because I know that is going to be a bit difficult for some of you to catch on to this information, obviously boxing in price, etc. So hopefully what I did there explained a lot, you know, in terms of helping you guys with your trend lines, helping you to understand how to read price, helping you to understand what's really happening with the market, because that is key. Just don't go in and tell yourself, oh, a new bounce back came out, and let me draw a trend line, wait for it to break, and let me see if I can try to catch 30 pips, right? Definitely, you know, you want to make sure that you can identify price from that perspective. So try to understand the overall story that price is telling you, and then you can move on from there, right? Christopher, message me either on Telegram or WhatsApp, and we'll talk. Right, guys? So let's see what time it is. It is 25 to 7, so I like to keep this to 30 minutes. So again, this call is recorded. Please watch it over from my YouTube channel if you don't understand how to box in price, and then look to see how I would have analyzed in terms of looking left, identifying support and resistance, as well as identifying, you know, the possible areas that the trade could go to, especially when bounce back calls it, right? So guys, thank you again for joining me. I hope that today's call was very, very, very useful for you, and that you could use it to build on your skill in trading Forex. Guys, thank you again for joining me this morning, and do have a beautiful day.